I really did not intend to make another rosette video, but I ran across a conundrum that I thought it might be interesting to tape. So originally I had some cutoffs from doing the sides, and the expectation was these were going to end up being my headstock veneers and my rosettes. Came time to finish up the rosettes, and it turns out I'm about 1/8 of an inch too narrow, maybe 3/16. Oops. So today I'm going to show how I took this narrower piece of wood and made a rosette that looks like it's one solid chunk. So what saves us is we've actually got a little bit more length that we can work with. So we could cut out sort of a ring here and then the other half of a ring here and join them together. Now, of course, we're not going to go down to sort of ring thickness. That would be really hard to manipulate. But what we'll do is we'll trace out the ring on this side. We'll trace out the bottom half of the ring on this side, run sort of a wiggly line through it, and cut that on the scroll saw. You could do it with a coping saw if you had to, but we're going to use a scroll saw. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll do a quick trace to see where we need to go. All right, so now we know kind of where we need to be there. And let's do the same on this side. Oh, well, that's way too low. Okay, so now what we can do, let's erase this one here that clearly is not right, is we can sort of cut that and then shift everything and join those two pieces. All right, so now we have something that we can bring together to give us a ring. Now the next part is to go over to the table saw. We'll chop off some of this excess, figure out where we want to join it so that we get nice sort of merging of the colors. Let's go do that. Our rosette ring is about 5 3/16, so we don't really want to go any smaller than that would give us about a 5 1/4 inch ring. So that leaves about 2 5/8 that we want to make sure that we've got available to us. And right now what we're going to do is sort of, this is the most generous cut that I can make right now. I do have this sort of scrap piece of wood here because if the wood can slide up underneath the fence. Fence is a little tall. This just keeps us from having that problem. And this is the best cut that we can make and still join everything. So we're going to make that. We're going to see how it goes, and then we may adjust inward. Now if we bring these two together, let's see what we've got to work with. Flip on the other side. Kind of looks like that if we took off a little bit more, we can kind of blend these two pieces together a little bit better. How much do we have to work with? Here's the ring we already did. we've probably got a good ½ inch that we can take this down. So if we want to bring that into there and that into there, kind of feels like almost want to take from here and then from here. So then I have to kind of be careful, but I can move this in, make that cut, and then make that cut, and we should still be able to line up. So let's do that. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Looks like we could still probably take off some. And we've got maybe 3/16 to play with. So let's try that. We're gonna sneak up on this guy. So this looks pretty good. We've got a nice blending of the sort of color and texture of the wood. Like after gluing, this is probably going to be completely invisible. And we check, we've got our size. So next step is to glue this up. As mentioned before, I like to do my glue ups on the table saw just because it's the flattest thing around. So when we go to clamp something thin like this, if I try and catch it with this, it doesn't hold very well. And the problem is you know, right on the edge here, it's gonna pull in one direction. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise it up just a little bit so that we get sort of in the middle of the clamp. So now we can clamp down without it yanking one direction or another. We don't need a lot of pressure here. We use just a little bit of weight here to kind of keep things from popping up. You don't want to squeeze too much, just enough. This is not like joining two, you know, 3/4 inch thick pieces of wood. This is tiny stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and do that now. Now we've dry fit everything and we're sure it's going to work. We do have a little piece of plastic here so that we don't glue ourselves to our platform. We'll just give a thin little smear. So we got some good coverage. Bring things together. This can sit in the middle without actually getting glue on it. So we're good there. And just a little bit of pressure, not a lot. want. Take a little bit of scraper. Get rid of the worst of our squeeze out. Now we let that sit for a while. It's been a while. Let's check our glue up. All right, now we've got something we can make a rosette out of. So now on to our next challenge. When we did this before, we had a pin. We don't have a pin here. How are we going to keep this thing steady? So we're going to use sort of an old trick where what we're going to do, we're going to throw a little painter's tape on this. And then, okay, so here's where we're going to kind of lay it out. Now what we need to do is throw a little bit of painter's tape on the surface itself. So we'll put a couple marks here just so we know where to lay it out. And then we're going to super glue the painter's tape together. So once we're done, this will stick nice. It won't move around. Take a little bit of basically type on. Like the thin stuff, doesn't go bad quite as quickly. And we'll just run some glue here. Now what ends up happening is the tape sticks to the tape because of the super glue. Put a little weight on that until that dries, and then we will come back and basically do the same thing we did in the other rosette videos. We are back. Everything is nice and snug. This is not moving at all. I do like to trim off the excess tape just so it doesn't grab the base of the trimmer as we're moving around. And now we're going to do what we've done before. I'll put a link in the comments and on the video that go over more in depth this whole process. So basically we're just going to blow through it here pretty quickly. We're going to plunge over here where it's going to be hidden by fretboard, and then do our outer cut and then do our inner cut. Now we can peel off our waste. Should come up pretty easy. This limba is very splintery, so like when it's not supported well, it will tend to split right along the grain. We're going to be very careful pulling this up. And should be able to just peel. And see, that's what we get. But we can fix that. And we'll just take a little, and we didn't even actually bust it at the glue joint. This was grain near the glue joint. We will take a little bit of glue, squeeze that together, and then we'll be just fine on that. And here's our rosette ring. We did glue up that split, so that is done. We just take a little light sanding, just like we did in the other video, to kind of knock off the nubs and burrs and little strandy stuff. And we have our rosette ring, and it looks just like it was one piece to begin with all the time. Now, this is the one I did earlier. This is what ultimately is probably going to go on this top. So it's a little bit of rosewood, a little bit of maple. On this, it'll be a very similar thing, but probably I'll use the Spanish cedar instead of the maple to kind of go more with the pinkishness of this top.